breaking news coming in from Pakistan, where the army has been called into Gilgit Baltistan. The Pakistan Army troops have taken their positions at the main bazaars, chowks and buildings across Gilgit Baltistan to maintain law and order after riots paralyzed life across the region. Riots had erupted after a Shia cleric was arrested in Gilgit. The riots were intensified following inflammatory electricity bills, making things worse for the police. Chief Minister of Gilgit Baltistan had sought the army's help to control the situation. Internet services have been reduced from 4G to 2G, and so that residents cannot share pictures and videos. In some parts, even cellular service is not working. Joining me on the broadcast, viewers, to tell you more about the situation and what it means, Senior Executive Editor of Republic TV, Abhishek Kapoor. Abhishek, over to you. What's happening in Pakistan? The army now called in to Gilgit Baltistan.
Well, it's all downhill, Rukma, and be it Balochistan, be it Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the erstwhile northwest frontier province, even Karachi, and there is general spike in terror-related incidents. And now in Gilgit Baltistan, we have seen almost like a movement going on for the last month and a half, 2 months. So this is about the people of Gilgit Baltistan not happy with the way Pakistan is running the territory illegally occupied from India or captured during 1948. In this instance, it seems that there are two clerics who, one of them about 2 months back made a statement that they're better off with India, and that really got the Pakistani state worried. And then a clampdown happened, which has led to another set of reactions from the people, and then now the army being called in. We don't know how effective the army would be, given the kind of attacks it is already facing, perhaps highest in the last 9 or 10 years, that terror-related incidents targeting the Pakistani army specifically have happened specifically in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, but then that's how it is. Economically in dire states, financially in doldrums. Pakistan now faces civil unrest. We saw political civil unrest panning out post-May on the issue of Imran Khan, and now even otherwise people generally unhappy with Pakistan coming out openly and expressing their frustration and anger, to the extent that we had that cleric in Gilgit Baltistan just about a month back saying that they would be better off with India. So I think writing sort of on the wall for the Pakistani state, more specifically Pakistani deep state, irrespective of what kind of deployment they do in Gilgit Baltistan, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, or wherever.
The issue over these exploding electricity bills that has erupted in protests all around, how do we look at that? What are they actually about? The caretaker Prime Minister saying that he cannot do anything about it, that IMF conditions have to be followed. Is it this hardline stance? Is it his helplessness? Is it something else? How would you describe it if you could explain it to us?
Well, helplessness, yes, but helpless is a product of Pakistani, ruling elites' indulgence, capricious indulgence rather, and the Pakistani army handling finances. The Pakistani army handles their space program, so you know what has happened. Pakistani army handles their agriculture. Pakistani army handles their economy as well. And that is the reason why this has happened now. So far as the power bills are concerned and the kind of protests we have seen panning out, it's because there is no power and electricity despite whatever China is giving them. And the inflated power bills are essentially because of the conditions imposed by IMF, and the IMF has not imposed those conditions because they want to finish off Pakistan, but because if the Pakistanis want money, they have to have their books in order. And the books are not in order because the Pakistani state traditionally, habitually did not tax the rich, and the rich pilfered the money out of Pakistan to wherever, from London to the UAE and whatnot. So I think it's a mess created by the Pakistanis themselves. The ruling elite have to be held responsible. They are sort of trying to deflect the blame onto IMF, but then they have only gone with the begging bowl to IMF. First Imran Khan, and then the PML and PPP government, and now the caretaker government also. Obviously, they can't shirk from the responsibility they have taken of cleaning up the mess. And the increase in power bills is essentially because for decades, the Pakistani state used freebies and reveries. Unfortunately, a culture sort of creeping in India also. Perhaps we should be forewarned that if you do this, this is the mess that you get into. I think, having said that, what is happening in Pakistan is essentially a mess of their own making. Essentially, Pakistan roiling in a broth of its own making, and be the protests in Gilgit Baltistan or in Karachi or the spike in terror attacks in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, it all essentially goes right to one office, one building, which is Afpara, and maybe they have to, see what they can do, what they should be doing. It's their job, it's their problem.
Where do you see the situation going from here now? What are the options before? Is it to bring in the army in order to quell protests, not just in Gilgit Baltistan, but in other parts of the country as well? How much the army could be effective, and in terms of options that Mr. Haq has, what would you say they are, in order to maintain the situation so that it can the path can be smoothened towards bringing back the situation to normalcy, whether we talk economically or even politically?
Well, it's for Pakistan to decide how, and they have a government, they have an army, and the army thinks they're invincible. The army thinks they know everything. So if they can make cookies and they can make get into agriculture, they can obviously they should be thinking about how to come out of this mess. I'm told we are joined by General GD Bakshi over the phone with us. Very good morning to you, sir. The Pakistani mess continues. Highest number of terror attacks by Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan on Pakistan army assets in the last 10 years. But specifically speaking about Gilgit Baltistan, Pakistan army has been called in because the people there are protesting and rebelling against the government there.
Absolutely. They are in the Shias of Gilgit Baltistan are in open revolt. One of their very revered Shia clerics, one of their Shia leaders, has been arrested and on blasphemy charges. This is been, specifically put in by the Sunnis, and this is likely to lead to far greater amounts of trouble in the rested province of Gilgit Baltistan. The simple fact is the Shias are fed up. They are sick to their gills with the kind of repression they have had to suffer at the hands of the Pakistani army. Don't forget, in Pervez Musharraf's time, he had brought in the Sunni Afghan tribesmen to loot, burn, rape, and try and subdue, cow down the Shias, who from time to time have been raising their heads, raising their voices against the tyranny of the Pakistan army, against the loot of the Pakistan army. They have looted the resources of Gilgit Baltistan, taken away its timber, its wildlife, everything, and left that place impoverished. Nothing has been done for its economic progress, for uplift, and that region languishes. And the Shias now are rested, they are angry, and the situation could explode anytime.
Yeah, General sir, also the fact that while in India we have had a Muharram procession going out in Srinagar after almost 38 years, and in Pakistan you have difficulty managing your own population, whom you had promised moon for coming out of India, and that's why we are hearing voices from Gilgit Baltistan who want to come back to India. Maybe India has a role there. It should have a role there in getting these people back at some stage.
Absolutely. That is legally our territory. Let's not forget, the Maharaja of Jammu and Kashmir had acceded to India. The accession was irrevocable, final, and total. That place belongs to us. It was the British, with the help of the Colonel Brown of the Scouts, Major Brown of the Scouts, they had initiated a push, a kind of a revolt, against the Maharaja to try and take away this vital province and not let it merge with India. This belongs to India and we should take it back.
Right, General Bakshi, thank you so much. Gilgit Baltistan, of course, has a history deeply connected with Indian Kashmir, and hopefully at some stage that history will unravel in the minds of the people on both sides of the line of control, and maybe future has something good happening for those people. Thank you so much, General Bakshi, on that note, and I hand it over back to Rukma in the studio.
Many thanks, Abhishek, for carrying that through for us. That conversation telling us a lot about how we should look at these protests in neighboring Pakistan. The army now called into Gilgit Baltistan, an area where just 2 days ago calls of a merger with India were heard from the local population, where protests have erupted in a big way. Let's move on now to other top stories.